When looking through the Bible, nobody stands out quite like David does. To say David had an interesting life would be a huge understatement. Whether it was killing giants or running from a power-hungry son, David's life never had a dull moment. For today's video, we're going to be looking at the story of David and Goliath. Yes, I know, we've heard the story a million times, but let's recap the story because we're going to look at it a little differently. So let's get started. As we know, the Israelites had gone out to fight the Philistines. However, this wasn't just an ordinary battle for them, due to the fact of one person, Goliath. Every morning and every evening, Goliath had been punking the Israelites. For 40 days and nights, he's been taunting them, playing mind games, and instilling fear in the Israelite army like never before. And Saul, who was supposed to be the king of Israel, was also cowering in fear. So I'm sure that didn't help morale at all. Back at home, David's father tells David to go take some food for his brothers who were fighting in the army. So David arrives at the battle and goes to find his brothers. As he's talking to them, none other than Goliath shows up for his daily taunting of the Israelites. David doesn't like what he hears. He asks, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel?" He then continues by asking, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His brothers tell him that Saul would give great riches and his daughter's hand in marriage if he kills him. David's oldest brother overhears this, and he's outraged. He accuses David of having a wicked heart and only coming down to see the battle. Someone overhears all of this and reports this to King Saul, so Saul sends for David. When David arrives, he tells Saul how he's ready to fight Goliath and how he had slain lions and bears and how Saul didn't need to be afraid. Saul was reluctant at first and tried to convince David that he should not go, but eventually he let him go. He had his armor put on David, but David said he couldn't use them for he was not experienced with them. So David went off to fight Goliath, and it went a little like this.
"Come to me, little one. I'll kill you and feed your flesh to the birds."
Okay, great. We've heard that story a million times. What can we learn? Well, back in the time of David, they had something called the evening and morning sacrifice. This was a time for prayer and being drawn closer to God, a time for forgiveness of sins and a time to be comforted. What does this have to do with anything, you're wondering? Well, during the battle, who would come out at these times to taunt the Israelites? That's right, Goliath. At the times the Israelites were supposed to be drawing closer to God, they were busy being distracted and drugged through the proverbial sand by Goliath. Just like Satan likes to do to us. When we are supposed to be focusing our eyes on God and being drawn closer to Him, He likes to distract us with fears, worries, anxieties, and so forth, so that we can't be connected to the source of life, so that we are unable to stand up against Him and fight. David didn't have this problem. David's connection with God had been so tight that when those obstacles, i.e. Goliath, came into his life, he could fight them without fear and with the assurance that God would be with him. Well, how do you get to this point? To be honest, and yes, I'm quite aware this is going to sound very cliche, you need to pray. You can't build a relationship with someone if you don't talk to them or learn about them, just like you can't build a relationship with God if you don't talk to Him. It's simply crucial. The second point I want to make is about that little scene with Saul trying to give David his armor. God has given everyone their sets of gifts and skills. What works for one person may not work for you. David used what he had been given and what he knew how to use. Sometimes we as humans get jealous of others or try to go outside the lines God has put us in. God wants us to use what we have and use it to bring honor to Him. In time, God will give you more, but that's only after He knows that it will be best for you and it will bring Him glory. I'm Robert Peters, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.